I want to ask Dr. Mosley to give the invocation, please.
Let us pray. Father in heaven, we give you thanks for the beauty of this day. We thank you, God, that you're in charge of your creation. We thank you, Lord, for our privilege to meet. We thank you for the Department of Social Services and pray your blessings upon them, Father. Bless them, Father, as they seek to serve you and to serve the residents of Alexander County. Bless this time, Father. Bless this board. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Everyone has a copy of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve today's agenda as written?
I make a motion.
Do I get a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All approve, say aye.
Aye.
Everyone has a copy of the minutes from January the 21st meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, is there any discussion? All approve, say aye.
Aye.
At this time, are there any new staff members?
I do not believe we have any new staff members here today, but I would, if you don't mind, Barbara, could I do a little recognition at this point?
Yes.
Instead of saving it till later in the program? I would like for Judy Rohrbaugh and Cheryl Millsaps and Teresa Bryant and Vicki Martin to come up, and Trina Riddle to come up. I just wanted to recognize these staff for a tremendous effort that they have made on behalf of Alexander County and on behalf of North Carolina. As you all saw, we met the February 10th USDA requirement for North Carolina, and these staff kind of went over and above. All of our staff worked really hard to make that happen, and as you know, Trina has been supervising both the Medicaid and the FNS programs, but these staff actually helped another county to meet that requirement. They worked, the last count I had, I believe it was near 48 cases for another county, which in someone's eyes, they might say, well, why in the world are our staff doing the work of another county? But North Carolina as a whole, including us, had the threat of losing $80 million on the table of administrative funds to administer the FNS program. These staff worked, some of them worked the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, or Sunday. Some of them worked during the day, Thursday and Friday, to help another county who was in a little trouble to get some cases processed. So I just thought you would like to know how far our staff are willing to go to make sure that people, not just that we meet that deadline, but also that people get their benefits. And I don't know if we want to give them a round of applause.
Yes.
Would that be?
When I got the word that there was a possibility of the loss of those funds and how everybody was going to have to work really hard to get NC Fast finished, I thought, we'll get it because we have such a dedicated staff. And now to say that you've helped other counties, you do need to be commended, not just you guys, but all of you out here too.
Thank you.
And Carolyn speaks for the whole board. We are certainly proud to have you as part of the DSS employees. Sherry Deal will now present the January financial report.
Hello and good afternoon.
Hi, Carolyn.
The report you have in front of you is for January. Started a whole nother year, not fiscal year, but calendar year. A few items that I want to make mention of. As I've mentioned before, it continues to grow, so I want to keep making mention of it. Our Medicaid transportation is probably about 4 or 5 lines down under the expenditures. We originally budgeted $100,000 Right now, of all of our expenditure categories, that is the one that has exceeded where we currently are in the fiscal year. And I believe, as Cindy's touched on previously, we currently have, I believe it's between 800 clients that we're currently serving through Medicaid transportation. And so that is fortunately 100% reimbursable funds. So we are continuing to monitor that, but I did want to make mention of it right now. Another item down in the revenue section, approximately 7 or 8 lines down, is our FEMA emergency food and shelter monies. We actually received notification that Alexander County was awarded $17,971. Usually in the process, we get half of those funds, and once those are expended and that process has been cleared by the FEMA individuals, then we'll get the second half of those monies. What we have used those funds so far in the month of January was for food vouchers. And I don't know if maybe Trina or someone else is going to speak to that a little bit later on. The down at the bottom of the page, balance left at the end of January is $1,144,000. Currently, through January, we've spent approximately $183,000 per month. With the funds that we have left, we have available roughly $228,000 available for the remaining 5 months of the year. So presently, we're in good shape, but as you're well aware, usually as the year goes, our pots of monies, they diminish and we've used them all. So that number will change. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I don't have anybody on the board have a question? No.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. At this time, the DSS supervisor will now present the January statistical report.
Good afternoon. I'm Trina Riddle, one of the Economic Services Supervisors. I can't talk today. I wanted to just point out on page 2 of your statistical report, under the child daycare services, to show you that we have cleaned out our waiting list and we are helping people as they walk in the door. You currently see we have 310 children we served in the month of January, and we should continue to increase that. And I also just wanted to say how much I appreciate all the work the Food and Nutrition Services people have done. With Matthew being out, they've really helped me a lot because, you know, food stamps is not my thing. But thanks to Vicki and Cheryl, we've managed and we've got through. And also to my Medicaid staff, they've done a great job going into NC Fast and taking all the applications. And so we're trudging right along. But I just wanted to point out the daycare. And I did put, on page 1, I did put in the food and nutrition participants that we serve from NC Fast. That's an NC Fast number, the 5,904 participants. And also the Medicaid, I just put in the total eligibles, which is 6,744. We may have to revamp the information that's on here because some of this information NC Fast doesn't give you, so we may want to look and maybe change some of that. But if you don't have any questions, thank you.
I also wanted to recognize that Sherry was talking about the FEMA monies, and we did spend half of that money in one day. And Trina herself, as well as 2 other staff people, took those applications. How many did we do? You remember?
120, I think, that day.
In one day at 50 vouchers, $50 vouchers per person in the household, up to a maximum of 200 per household. And they spent that money out in one day. So it's been busy time. And when you've got a supervisor doing applications, you know that an agency is maxed out. Thank you, Trina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Lee Milstead, Child Support Supervisor. If you will, look at the bottom on page 2 at child support. The total cases that we had for the month of January for establishment and enforcement were 1,178, and the total collections that we had for the month of January was $164,852. And if you will, turn back over to page 1. In the middle of the page there, under program integrity, I think we mentioned this a couple of months back, but we have a new worker in child support, and we have moved Cheryl Millsaps. She's now under child support, but she's doing program integrity. And hopefully she's been helping out, of course, food stamps quite a bit, but we're hoping to get, her more concentrated under the program integrity to work on that. And because she did get to work on that a little bit more in the month of January, I did want to recognize her. She had a good collection month, better than average. She collected $3,278 for us under the program integrity for the month of January. So hopefully we're going to see that total go up a lot more when she gets to work on that a little bit more. So I did want to recognize her for that. Yes, sir.
I have one question.
Sure.
What percentage of the county do you collect child support for? I mean, of all the cases total?
What percentage?
Yeah, like if we had 2,000 divorced parents, do all of them go through the social services, or do they go through?
Phil, I don't know. I can run a report
no,
to
no.
find that out, but I don't know right off the top of my head.
I really was.
I'll find out for you, though.
That's just a lot of children.
Yes, there is a lot that we do collect for. I mean, we have a lot of children, of course, that are on Medicaid, and not quite as many that are on the Work First program, but it's a pretty high percentage. I can run that for you and let you know next month at the board meeting.
Just a thought.
I'll be glad to try to do that.
And are you asking, Phil, of those who, of all the child support cases in the county, how many of them come through our agency?
Right.
That's some information we'd have to get with the clerk, and because
Yes.
there is child support external to DSS.
Yes.
Not all of it comes through us.
Right.
but-
I mean, they can hire through a private attorney, and there's a few cases that are still going through the clerk of court, but, And of course, if they apply for Medicaid or Work First, they have to, go through child support also to get their services. Thank you. Is there any more questions? Thank you.
I'm Julie Sebastian. I'm the Adult Services Supervisor. And if you'll look at page 3 on your statistical report, I want to mention a few things. Our Community Alternatives Program, CAP, we are down 74. Unfortunately, we terminated 3 last month due to several different reasons, and we're working very hard to get those numbers up. Just time-consuming to get FL2s, get those completed correctly from the doctor. We do have a waiting list, 5 folks on our congregate meal sites, and due to the EdTap money that the county is currently overseeing, we are not being able to add on any more participants for that program, and the county has purchased a 12-passenger van, and we're hoping soon, keeping our fingers crossed, that we can start picking up those folks and taking them to our nutrition site. We are waiting on a step stool, and different things, because it is a pretty big step. I want to mention that to you. We have budgeted $70,000 for the next year to help with the transportation for our congregate meal folks. We are down in our numbers, both congregate and home delivered meals, due to the inclement weather. Anytime school's delayed, let out early, canceled, we do close. Wanted to also bring to your attention page 4, our APS numbers skyrocketed in January. We received 20, which is high for our little unit. And in that month, our first week, our new worker, we received 10, so she was trained pretty quick. I want to mention too about our home care community block grant program. We should be at 58%, and currently for our congregate, we're at 53%, home delivered meal at 43%, our housing and home improvement at 47%, and our in-home aid services at 62%. Anyone have any questions?
I did want to just comment on the the van, and I wanted to remind you that last year in our budget, we included some additional all-county funds to purchase the van and to also hire a couple of drivers. If you remember, that was a part of our budget. We did not ever hire any drivers. We have continued to work with Greenway and try to use them as our primary mode of transportation. We have, between our home and community care block grant and our EdTap funds, we have maxed out any ability to add anyone to our congregate meal sites, or really to add to our home-delivered meal sites now. We are $70,000, anticipate $70,000 more transportation needs than what we budgeted for this year. And what we are doing is using the money that we budgeted for the drivers to meet that deficit. So we asked them to give us an anticipated cost for next year, and they anticipate that next year, just like this year, that it will cost us $70,000 more than what we had budgeted for this year for transportation, if we continue the level of service that we have right now. Now, that's no additional folks. So we are in a position where we are really maxed out, and that $70,000 is all county monies. And it is in my budget. It is in the budget that we sent forward. Very honestly, that may be one of the first things that gets, if anything gets cut out, that may get cut out. So not only would the cutting out of that transportation money mean that we couldn't add anybody, it would mean we could not provide the same level of services we have provided this year. And in layman's terms, that means less elderly and disabled people getting to the congregate meal sites to eat a meal, and less folks served by our home delivery routes. So I just want you to bear that in mind as we move forward. If things are, if the budget is cut, that is all county, that transportation money, there's no reimbursement for us for that particular service.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Holly Young, the Children's Services Program Manager. And if you could look at page 5 of the monthly report, you can see in January that we received 68 reports and accepted 55 of those reports. At the end of January, we had 84 investigations or assessments open and 58 in-home cases open. We had 57 children in our custody or in foster care, and we had one child that exited foster care, which is always a good thing. I really want to draw your attention to page 6, just really quickly, to a very exciting number. You will see that we were able to license, and I say we, but really I wish I had invited our licensing worker to come over here this afternoon, Tennille Heilman, and her partners. But we licensed 4 new homes, and that brought us to 30 licensed foster homes. And since I have worked here since August of 2008, that's the most foster homes we have ever had licensed in the county or by our county. And when I look back at the financial report, which I was doing as Sherry was going over it, and look at how much money we've spent year to date and the percentage that we're at, or the rate where we are, and I dare say it because I'm afraid I'm going to jinx us, but our expenditures are way less than where they were last year because we have been able to recruit these foster parents in our own community and keep children here and pay a standard room and board rate for those children in this county, and that for us is very exciting. And our staff have worked so hard in this community to go out and recruit folks who live and work here, and make sure that those kids can stay in their home schools and those kind of things. It's just very, very exciting for us. We do have a foster parent training or MAP class that will be starting next week. And we hope that we have a turnout that is reminiscent of those that we had last year and are able to continue to grow those numbers. And then hopefully within the next couple of years, look into doing some recruiting with some other agencies for a higher level of foster care, but called therapeutic foster homes, which we desperately need in our community because we do have some children with some therapeutic or mental health type needs, and we would love to be able to have more of those homes in our community and grow those out of the homes that we currently have. So I'm just really excited about that. I think
The day and time of the first map.
I believe that the information session is on Thursday night, but I'm sorry, I'm not 100% sure about that. I did not write it down before I came.
Okay.
It is next week. And you can call, anyone who's interested in participating in that information session can call the agency, 632-1080, and ask to speak with Tennille Heilman, and she'll be able to give you all the information about that.
And we'll give that day and time before we leave here today, so that if anyone watching would be interested in fostering.
Yes, be glad to do that. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Holly.
One more little exciting thing, Holly, brag on Holly and her staff. If you look under the foster care numbers on page 5, out of those 57 children that we have in custody, only 4 of those 57 children are not either in a licensed foster home or with a family or kinship placement. So we only have, we have 2 children that are in group homes or institutions, and 2 children that are either hospitalized or in detention training school. That, I will tell you, in my years, 29 years of child welfare work, that is wonderful. That's a wonderful number, that we only have 4 children that are not in licensed foster homes or kinship placements. It's just really to be commended on the part of the staff. And they are excited. I just signed paperwork today for another foster home licensure. So we're going to have 31 at least by next month. And they're really excited about getting our children in our community so they can go to their schools. They don't lose everything when they come into custody, including their family and their school and their friends and that kind of thing. So it's a win-win financially and for the children and for the family. So really proud of them.
Thank you. If that's all, at this time, our program today will be our partners at the Partnership for Children and the Kids in Cars, presented by Susan Cogdill and Holly Young, respectively.
Sorry, baby, don't fall.
Baby looks hungry. I was sitting here winking at him, wondering why.
Good afternoon. I'm Susan Cogdill, and I'm the Director of the Partnership for Children here in Alexander County. I'm getting ready to celebrate an anniversary. I'll soon have been here 5 years, so I'm pretty excited that I've been here that long. Alexander is a great place to partner with other agencies. And when Cindy asked me to come and speak to you today, she said, well, I want you to talk about partnership. And I said, okay, well, partnership is our name, so it's easy to partner. But partnering with DSS is wonderful here in Alexander County. When I go across the state and I meet with other agencies that are partnerships for children, many of them don't have the relationship with the Department of Social Services that we have here. When I came here 5 years ago, the first thing that happened, I was in the office 2 days, and I got a phone call, and it said, you need to come to DSS. We're planning for our Prevent Child Abuse Month in April, and you have to be a part of it. And I was like, okay. And so we've had a partnership since then. I sit on the Permanency Planning Committee at DSS. I also am a part of the Community Collaborative representing the partnership. DSS also works with us. Cindy serves on our board. We have another DSS staff member, Patty Barr, that serves on our ACPC board. We also have DSS staff that are on the North Carolina preschool program that we administer. They serve on that committee. And then one of the biggest things that we've done recently is several DSS staff members serve on our 1, 2, 3 Go Play AC. This is a committee, a collaborative, a group, a coalition, whatever you want to call us, but we meet to prevent early childhood obesity in young children. And it's great to have so many folks from DSS that work with us on that. We've done a lot of neat things with mini gardens. We were in the Christmas parade this year. If you got to see us, we were the fruits and the vegetables. We were quite cute. But we've done a lot of things to increase physical fitness and nutrition among our young children. The Partnership for Children also contributes to subsidy at DSS. A portion of our budget goes directly to DSS so that children can be served in child care centers. The money that is from the Partnership for Children specifically goes to high-quality care. These are centers that are 4- and 5-star, the highest quality rating that a child care center can have. We also work with DSS so that our North Carolina preschool slots that we have that are in child care centers can be used for children who are receiving financial assistance through the Department of Social Services. One of the newest programs that we've started is called Circle of Parents, and I passed out some information about that. Cindy keeps things hopping, and she was relentless about me starting Circle of Parents for clients from DSS. And we have a Circle of Parents group that meets weekly. We have 2 groups that meet Monday and Thursday, and it's a parent self-help support group. It helps parents through the trials and tribulations of parenting. All parents need assistance, and this is a great support group. We have child care. We have our early childhood program that's a part of it. But we also have a group that meets on Thursday night, or not Thursday night, excuse me, I'm ahead of myself, Monday night, and I'm the facilitator with that, and I've really enjoyed starting that with the folks. And we have a mixture of folks that come in. Some are DSS clients, some are just parents in the community. And we have a dinner together, much like a family would have a meal together. We all sit down, and I'm the chef, so you can imagine what we're serving. But we sit down together and we have a meal together, and then we talk about parenting issues, behavioral issues, whatever type of support they need. So that's another program that we have. And then the program that you're going to hear about today, and I think through Holly when she talks about kids in cars, is we have a car seat program, and that's why I brought in a car seat today. The Partnership for Children is very fortunate. We have a car seat exchange program. We get calls a lot of times, and people will say, do you give away car seats? No, we don't give away car seats. We inspect car seats. All of our staff are certified car seat technicians. And so any individual in the county can call in and make an appointment, and we will schedule a time to inspect your car seat. And if the car seat is found inappropriate, if it has been in a car wreck, if it's the wrong size, if your child weighs too much, we will replace the car seat free. And we're very fortunate in Alexander because United Way funds allow us to do that. We get United Way funds that we use for the car seat program. You exchange your car seat, and we actually destroy it in that we cut the straps so that no one can come in and use it again. We inspect a lot of car seats. This year, we've inspected in the first half of the year around 100 car seats. Some years, we inspect up to 200. We also set up a program so that our foster parents can get car seats for children. A car seat like this is around $75, $80. Many parents can't afford that, and foster parents, it's an extra expense for them. So they bring the foster child in, and we inspect a car seat, and many times it's one that they've borrowed. And so we let them take that back, and then we provide a new car seat. And the car seat is actually the child's. It's not a DSS car seat. It stays with the child. So hopefully when the child returns to their parents, they will take the car seat with them. That's kind of the nuts and bolts of the car seat program. It's a busy program at times, and then at times there's a lull. Springtime is coming and people start thinking about traveling and they need car seats, but it's a program that we enjoy doing. Do you have any questions? Okay.
We very much appreciate our partnership with
Well, we appreciate our partnership too. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to follow up on what Susan talked about just briefly about kids in cars and talk about the things that we sometimes get Child Protective Services reports about and why some of those things are actually Child Protective Services reports and some of those things aren't. And sometimes people are surprised to hear that that's not child neglect or abuse and that we're not going to go out and investigate that. And so first I would like to talk about things that are reports and that we would actually respond to and go out and check on, We often and frequently get reports about children in cars with an impaired parent driving the car. And the state, for a few years, wavered on whether that actually was a Child Protective Services report or not, and whether the parents driving under the influence had a direct impact on the child. Recently, within the past year or so, the state decided that that was, in fact, a report, no matter what else was going on. And so we do investigate or assess those situations and always have. One of the worst fatalities that I have been involved in involving a child, involved a child that was killed due to a parent being impaired driving a car. But also, the child was not properly restrained in the vehicle. There were several other children in the vehicle not properly restrained, and what we learned later is that there were car seats flying around in the vehicle because they were not properly restrained. And so, just to go back and speak to what Susan says, it's so important for those seats to be properly installed and the children properly strapped into them. There's also some reports, this has never happened in this county that I'm aware of since I've been here, but there are parents who have asked their older children who are not yet licensed to drive their cars for them because they are impaired. That obviously, to most people, would be a situation where DSS would become involved and investigate that report and would be concerned about the safety of that child. Or asking the child to blow into what's called an interlock device. Some of you may be familiar with that. They're installed in cars for people who have had usually more than one driving while impaired charge, and to detect if there's any alcohol in their system. The car won't start if there's alcohol in their system, and sometimes adults will ask either a sober adult or their child to blow into that device in order for the car to start. That would be very concerning, of course, to us, and we would want to look into that situation. Some of the other things that we would be very concerned about are children left alone in cars. And one of the questions that you really have to think about is, well, how old is the child? And is the child responsible enough to understand what to do if they're alone in a car and what not to do? And a lot of times folks will call us and say, how old does my child have to be? And what has to follow that question is, tell me about your child. Only you know whether your child is old enough and responsible enough to be left alone in a car or anywhere else. I've often said there are 16-year-olds that I wouldn't leave alone anywhere, and there are 80-year-olds that probably could be left at home or in a car by themselves for a period of time. A recent example of a report, we received a report that baby was left alone in the car at Walmart, and when the police responded, because they were contacted prior to us being contacted, which was the most appropriate thing to do, turned out that the child was 14 and not a baby, and so that was a good thing. But the other thing about leaving children in cars is the hot weather or too cold. We've all heard horrible stories about children suffocating in cars, being left in hot cars, cars that are running, and the child accidentally gets the car in motion, puts it in gear. Some other things that can happen when children are left alone in cars is seatbelt strangulation, and also window strangulation, getting themselves caught in power, especially power windows that roll up and down in older model cars. Newer model cars are made so that especially if a child stepped on the window switch, it's not most new cars are not toggle switches. The switch is actually a push button, and so it requires that you use something to push it up or pull it in order for the window to go up and down, and those switches are made that way because the old toggle switches would allow for a child's foot to cause that window to go up and down, because children actually were and had been strangled in those situations. Those would be a concern to Child Protective Services because we would be concerned about the supervision of the child. Where was the parent when that happened and what was going on? Children getting locked or trapped in trunks if parents weren't supervising small children around cars. And also leaving children in cars in busy parking lots or at gas stations with cars running, the possibility of somebody getting into the car and leaving with the child. Also, just thinking about children, not just in cars, but walking and biking on busy highways or roads, young children that aren't supervised by an older adult or parent. And we frequently get calls about young children who've wandered out into the road or are playing in the road. Our message to you would be that if you see these situations or have a concern about a situation with a child being in a car and a safety issue that you think is also a Child Protective Services issue, that your immediate response should be to either call the Highway Patrol or to call 911, because of course they are emergency responders and they can get there much faster than we can, and then to contact our agency. If you're not sure, better to be safe than sorry. Also, if you're in a parking lot and see a child left alone in a car, we would recommend that you try to stay close to that car until law enforcement responds. But if adult approaches that car and gets in, we would not recommend that you confront that person, but just get the tag number and report that to law enforcement so they can follow up on that situation, and so we can follow up on that situation in the future if necessary. Some of the situations that we sometimes get calls about or questions about that we do not get involved in, children not properly restrained in a car seat. It's not a Child Protective Services report, and we frequently get calls about that. That is strictly a law enforcement issue. If there is a concern about that, or you see someone that's riding down the road or driving in the parking lot and they're not putting their kid in the car seat, and you know that you have to call law enforcement and report that to them. There's nothing that we are able to do about that. Children being allowed to ride in the back of pickup trucks, also a law enforcement issue. We're not allowed to do anything about that. And depending on where they're riding in the back of a pickup truck, law enforcement may not be able to do anything about it. Children riding four-wheelers and three-wheelers. This is pretty recent legislation concerning four-wheelers and three-wheelers, and it is very specific to ages and the size of the motor and those kind of things. But any child under the age of 16 operating an ATV has to be supervised by an adult 18 or over, and the law says constant supervision. But that also is a law enforcement issue unless the ATV is being used for farming, hunting, or trapping. That can become, though, another issue if the child is being allowed to ride that type vehicle in dangerous situations and the parent is allowing that to occur in an unsafe manner. And it's a lot of those situations really come down to when someone calls in asking questions, making sure that we're asking the right questions about what is the parent allowing the child to do, what's the level of supervision. And the last thing is children on lawnmowers, riding on someone's lap, little bitty babies, 7 or 8 year olds, not a Child Protective Services report. However, if someone is impaired and riding a lawnmower and has a child on their lap, that is concerning. And if the neighbor knows that the parent is impaired or is usually impaired while they're mowing the grass and the child is on the lawnmower, is seeing something dangerous happen with the child on the mower, then it is likely that we would probably look into that situation and have had reports of that. And I gave my staff an example when we were actually talking about these situations of a young man that I observed one day mowing his grass with his almost 2-year-old son asleep on his lap. And he had taken the blade off of his riding mower, so the deck was taken off because it didn't work anymore. And he had bungee corded the push mower to the riding mower, so he still had an operable riding mower, so to speak. And the child was sleeping, and when I pulled up, he didn't turn off the mower, but he got off. The child was asleep, and he stood the child up beside the mower and kind of woke him up like that, left the mower running, and said, "What you need?" And I said, "I need for you to turn off that mower before your kid gets chopped up by it." Yeah, I was a little concerned about that. So, those kind of things, yes. But, like when in doubt, call, ask the question. But, keep your, I was reading some stats from the National Transportation Safety Administration and talking about the number of children who could have been saved if they'd been properly restrained in car seats. And I think that message is so important that, and people talk about, my child doesn't want to sit in a car seat and they hate it. But if something happened to your child and it could have been prevented if they had been appropriately restrained in car seats, I think that's the message that's so important. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
That was very thorough.
Thank you. Oh, and
Thank you.
foster parenting or MAP information session will be on February the 27th, so that is next Thursday evening, and it's at 6 o'clock, and that will be at DSS.
We invite anyone that's
Yes.
interested to
Anyone that
come.
is interested in becoming a foster parent, has some questions about it, is just thinking about it, please come, and they'll be glad to answer your questions. You're not committed to attending the rest of the sessions. That's only an information session.
Thank you, Holly. We will now, if there's no other supervisors, we will now have items from our director, Cindy Homer.
I always like to make you aware of agency vacancies, and at this time, we have just 2 vacancies. We do have a community social services tech position that is vacant, and also a food nutrition services worker, which as we talked earlier about our dealings with NC Fast, that's a little devastating to us to lose a F&S worker at this time. So we do have that position posted. We posted it immediately and hope to recruit and get someone hired as soon as possible. It is a 6 to 12 months training period, actually, for someone to get up and running and have some real confidence. A year, actually, to have confidence, but we will be trying to fill that position as quickly as possible. And I'll have some other things about hiring that I'll talk with you about maybe next month. NC Fast update. We did meet that February 10th deadline, but there is another deadline coming, and that is March the 31st. And I will tell you, it's been quite a interesting couple of weeks. We've had Saturday night at 7:30, 100 county director calls. We've had county director calls every morning for 4 working days in a row at 9 o'clock in the morning. where we've discussed and worried about that deadline, and we met that deadline, and then we stopped all that urgency, which is very concerning to the directors, as you can imagine. If you'll look with me, I've given you several communications that have come out about the FNS program just today. I wanted to show you how much uncertainty and concern there is ongoing. There are 3 of these communications that are dated February the 18th, which is today. They're emails that I followed up to you, or I forwarded to Shelley for her to make a copy for you. One of them talks about, let's see, it says, "Dear County Champions." Do you see that one? It's talking about a conversion that happened over the weekend and goes into, and I guess what I want you to see here is that every time that they do add any Medicaid rules, roles, responsibilities, whatever they roll in over the weekend, then we have a repercussion the following week. And that has happened this week. We've had quite a time yesterday and today. And so you can see here that conversion that happened over the weekend, you see them talking about 3 reports that have been produced and wanting the counties to work each one of those reports, because whatever they did over the weekend created problem cases, and so then we have to go in and fix those problem cases and work those reports. So there's one communication today. There's another communication that says, "Dear NCFAST users," that came just this morning, and you see that it says that the help desk is receiving multiple calls this morning regarding the receipt of unhandled server exception error messages. And it basically says, "We know about it, don't keep calling us." And we'll work as hard as we can. And I take nothing away from them. I'm sure that they are working as hard as they can. Everyone wants this to be a success. However, at the county local, where this work affects our consumers, our people who are trying to get food nutrition services benefits, if we can't process the cases in the system, we cannot get the benefits on the cards so that people can get their food. So here's another evidence that, we're continuing to have problems. And then the third communication is a heads up from our County Director of Social Services president for this year. Her name is Tammy Shrinker, and she's the director in Richmond County. And basically, it tells us that we will not be receiving a extension to roll out the Magi Medicaid program. And the directors have been heavily lobbying with the state division about why would we continue to just push Medicaid forward when FNS is not working, when we're continuing to have trouble processing cases. But we're told here basically that we did not get an extension. It kind of indicates that an extension was not applied for, is my take on it. But I will tell you that this has resulted in emergency directors meetings being called all across the state. I got notification today that the Western directors will meet on the 27th in Asheville. There's been a lot of communication on the directors listserv, concern from the county directors level, because we are working our staff Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, helping other counties, doing everything that we can to make the current system that we have work. Medicaid is so complex in comparison to food nutrition benefits. It is, I don't know, Trina, how would you describe the difference between the FNS program going into NCFAST and Medicaid? Is it 11? There are multiple programs and different kinds of Medicaid. There's Medicaid for pregnant women, there's Medicaid for infants and children, there's
Family planning waiver, there's North Carolina Health Choice, there's Medicaid with a deductible, there's the insurance affordability applications we've been getting.
So as we move forward, obviously, we're willing to work hard and we're willing to negotiate this system, but we are really concerned about Medicaid rolling into this system. But it does appear from this communication that there is no extension on that date and that we will just plow forward. So I wanted you to be aware of that. I also want to bring to your attention another a communication, and I sent this to you in an email, so I won't be redundant and go through it real heavily, but I did want to remind you that we had calculated the costs that the county has incurred for doing business in NC Fast in 2013. We went back and looked at the overtime hours calculated per employee. We had 14 employees plus 2 supervisors who had overtime. And of course, we have given them comp time for those hours. But that's a cost of, it's 792 hours, 0.52 hours, a cost of $12,884.54 in additional hours worked by our own staff. You know that we've hired some part-time staff, and if you see on this little second attachment, those 4 staff, that we've paid them $18,412.96 in 2013 to help us be able to meet our requirements in NC Fast. And then, of course, this little email that I sent back to, it was the County Commissioners Association that called for this information. So county commissioners across the state are concerned about what is NC Fast costing the counties. And I would say that nothing on this piece of paper or no amount of money describes the cost to the morale and of the staff, of the work that's been done in the program. And we have folks that we've said, just keep doing, do more, work on the weekends, work overtime. And by the way, we're going to roll out Medicaid too. So it is concerning. You know that I have not been negative about NC Fast, nor will I be ugly and say this system won't work. I believe we need NC Fast, but I believe we need a effort that gets out in front of us rolling programs into it that makes sure that we can negotiate the system and that we can get the benefits to the customers. And as I've said many times, the tears come from the staff, not about the system, but about the people who are calling in and saying, I have 3 kids and there's nothing on my EBT card. I can't get my groceries. And what am I going to do? I don't have any money. Those are the things that upset our staff. I think what's ahead is the call that's going to come, maybe not to the staff, but to me saying, I'm having surgery this morning and my Medicaid is not in place, and what are you going to do about it? So I just update you that we continue to have problems. Our staff are positive. We met all our requirements. By the middle of last week, we had our, we had gotten all of our cases off the bad list and had worked those, and then, of course, began to help our neighbor county because we did not want North Carolina, as we would be persecuted in that $80 million. Alexander County would get their share. So we've done everything we know how to do to negotiate this system. It is something that we need. We do need an automated system.